Thank you, Doctor Who, for creating the very first Hornet slash Wasp in the history of anything that has not freaked me out, because I am horribly terrified of them. Also, anyone that was wondering about the question that I brought up in the previous episode about possibly skipping ahead and doing some mini-reviews of the new Season 8 Doctor Who, popular opinion seems to be against that, so I won't be doing it. I may go ahead and watch like one episode. I don't know for sure yet, but yeah, you don't have to worry about me really spoiling anything for myself. Just gonna go ahead and take everything one at a time. I think it's time to start the episode. I'm Papa Kenn and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Today, the episode I'm going to be talking about is The Unicorn and the Wasp. And I do want to say this episode overall was better than the previous one. As for my overall thoughts, as usual, that will wait until a little bit later in the episode. Let's get things started with my favorite parts of this episode. The first of which is the fact that this episode is hilarious. Throughout the entire episode, there were multiple times where I was just absolutely cracking up. Whether it's at the Doctor and Donna, whether it's at the I can't remember really any of the side characters' names, unfortunately, but just their quirks and like the different things, like the flashbacks to, which I found really weird. I don't remember there being many flashbacks in in many of the previous episodes, but when it flashes back and the people are talking about what they were doing at 4:15 that afternoon, and we see all these different things that people are doing, like the woman of the house like taking her flask out and drinking, and then the little liaison. Is it liaison or well, the little meetup between her son and was he a servant? But yeah, that was cute. I like that. But yeah, this episode was just absolutely hilarious, and it had some really funny connections to like games like Clue, which just made it even funnier. So yeah, this was easily probably one of the funniest episodes overall, not just relying on the back and forth of the Doctor and Donna, but just the writing was good and it was really funny. Now, my second favorite part about this episode was Agatha Christie. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know a lot about Agatha Christie. I know of her and I've heard of her works, but to be honest, to the best of my knowledge, I've never actually read any of her books. I'm pretty sure I haven't, actually. I am actually going to change that, though, after this episode, because just the murder mysteries have always really intrigued me, and I haven't really read any books like that in a long time. Like, the closest I can remember is back when I was a young kid, I read these books, The Hardy Boys, which was like the boys' version of the Nancy Drew books. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed her portrayal. She seemed like an amazing character, an amazing historical figure, and yeah, I just absolutely loved the performance. The actress did a wonderful job and just really sold this character on me. And she was, I mean, even like all the emotional moments near the end, when after she's lost her memory, I really liked that. It was really well done. Now, my third favorite part about this episode, and I guess I kind of hit on this earlier with the fact that the episode was hilarious, but the quirkiness of the other characters. The way that all these different characters played off of each other was hilarious to me. Excuse me. And just their quirkiness, even beyond that, but the way that it played within the episode, when we find out the truth behind the room that had been locked, just like why that had happened. It's just the way that I cannot remember the character's name, but the way she explained what had really happened in the past when she had met the Vespa form, the original Vespa form that fathered the one that was killing everybody in this episode. Just the other characters were really good. Maybe not just their quirkiness, but just them in general. I really liked them, even though they were pretty much all just bit one-off characters. I thought they were quite enjoyable. Now, my fourth favorite part about this episode, really more than anything, was the Doctor and Donna. Just overall, they were hilarious and awesome, but the one thing that really stood out the most was the fact that they kept dropping these hints accidentally about Agatha Christie's future works. And even when they were talking about the works that she had already put out, but it's like they would accidentally drop these hints, and the Doctor will look at Donna like, not yet. And then the Doctor did it himself as well. And that was just more of what really made this episode funny. Just all of those moments and the way that it played off each other, and of course, as always, the way the Doctor and Donna play off of each other. It just keeps getting better and better, really. Now, the fifth and final favorite part about this episode was really had to do with the scene at the very end, Agatha Christie's legacy, or really just the way that the Doctor and Donna talked about it. And I'm actually going to hit on this a little bit more in the quote of the episode, but just well, fictional knowledge, but knowing that Agatha Christie is, I believe, still the best-selling novelist in the world ever. And the idea that, you know, in the year 5 billion, which is when that book that the Doctor had was copyrighted, that the books are still selling then, you know, that's just a great thought and just like a wonderful homage to the legacy of Agatha Christie. Again, even though I haven't read any of her books, she is apparently, I mean, a very well-known and loved novelist, and yeah, it's like I really want to learn more about her books and really, I guess, get part of that legacy in my brain. It's like touched here, but anyway. But yeah, those were some of my favorite parts about this episode. You might notice they were not like some of the strongest, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. Let's go on ahead into my annoyances, the problems with this episode, and there are quite a few, some more severe than others to me. The first of which is the Vespa form. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that this was probably the only time I've ever not been afraid of a wasp, because I have like a phobia of them. And it's not so much the graphics, because like the monster itself was pretty foreboding. It would just kind of come out of nowhere, and it was, you know, it was marginally scary as a villain. But my problem was, before the pastor, I can't remember his name, but before he transforms for real, or like the first time on camera into the Vespa form, he starts bzz, doing the bzz, like, you know, a nervous tick thing, and I don't know, I know what they were going for, the kind of like inner wasp thing or whatever, but I don't know, I feel like it would have been better executed had they not had the bzz, bzz, nervous tick every time the character got angry, because it made it silly. And you know, since it's technically a kid's show, I can kind of see why they did that, but it was just really annoying to me more than anything, just to every now and then have the character going and again, it was silly and it made me laugh when I guess technically I shouldn't have been. Now, my second problem with this episode was that the sudden emotional turn feels a bit weak. And actually, I'm going to combine this with the next annoyance, because they basically merge into one. But it's when Agatha Christie gets really upset and runs off because she's blaming herself for what's going on, for all these murders, when it's not her fault at all. And I mean, I can see what they were going for, just like the big emotional turn of the episode, but Agatha Christie had nothing really to do with what was going on, other than the fact that the mother of the creature had been reading her book at the time. So, I don't know. Agatha Christie blames, says it was her imagination that caused the Wasp to start killing, and the psychic connection. I don't know, it's just, that part of the episode really bothers me because it doesn't make really any logical sense. And I've mentioned before, I know that this show can't always follow real logical sense. It's very much sci-fi, very much fantasy, but they were trying to make things logical, and it failed, in my opinion. And that's probably the biggest issue I had with this episode, was the fact that when it takes that emotional turn, it falls flat because it doesn't make sense why Agatha Christie is so upset, why she's blaming herself, at least to me. If some of you commenters can have a better explanation of it for me, please leave it below. But yeah, that almost kind of ruined this episode for me, just because it kind of really messed with the ending. And now my actual third and final issue with this episode was that, and this is something that bothers me, it's kind of like the noble sacrifice, or the unneeded noble sacrifice, but when the, was it a gargoyle or like a pill or whatever, but basically when the thing falls over on the woman partway through the episode, the thing that bothers me is when someone looks up and they see the thing falling. And this goes on for like, I don't know, it may have been shorter, but it seems like 10 seconds. And I hate it when they do that, because there's obviously time for the character to move to the side or dodge out of the way, and they don't. They just stand there and scream, and that is one of the most annoying tropes of anything ever. Had it been something that just took her by surprise and it was like a last second, that would be fine, but it's like, I hate it when characters see something falling toward them, they have more than enough time to dodge, and they don't. Like I said, it's just one of the really more annoying tropes of anything that really gets under my skin. Now, before I move on to my final thoughts of the episode, the quote of the episode, there were quite a few for this one. A few honorable mentions, really. This one has to do, I won't even really mention the context, but the few other contexts are when the Donna looks at Doctor after he says what he does. It's like, the plucky young woman who helps me out. Just the way, how angry she was when he said that was absolutely hilarious. And then, later in the episode, Donna references, without even knowing it, one of the earliest episodes when she says, "No, but isn't it a bit weird? Agatha Christie didn't walk around surrounded by murders, not really. I mean, that's like meeting Charles Dickens and he's surrounded by ghosts at Christmas." And the funny thing is, that the episode she's referencing is the one that really started to pull me into Doctor Who, so I just found that really funny. But the actual quote of the episode is, it has to do with the very end of the episode when the Doctor is talking about Agatha Christie's legacy. And the quote is this: "Well, no one knows how they're going to be remembered. All we can do is hope for the best. Maybe that's what kept her writing. Same thing keeps me traveling. Onwards," Donna says, "onwards." And that quote right there, one, says a lot about the Doctor and the show overall. It's like it sort of gives a little bit of his mindset possibly behind what keeps him going, even though so many bad things happen all the time. And it's a quote that really we can apply to our own lives. It's like, we don't know how people are going to remember us. I like to think that people will remember me as a good person. Who knows? There's probably people out there that will remember me as a complete douchebag. But yeah, I just really like that quote because it just said so much about so many things outside of just this episode. And as for the episode overall, I really liked it. It has some major issues, and I can see why this is sort of a controversial episode that has some of the fandom split. If I remember what some of the what some of the comments said. But yeah, it's like, it's definitely not one of the best. It was absolutely hilarious. It kept me entertained, and despite its faults, I felt it was an overall good episode. Definitely more of on the upswing from the previous episode. Now, I don't actually have a question for this episode overall because I definitely feel like it was a standalone, and it was one that stood on its own very well. So, I'm going to mention the other question I was going to mention from last episode, and it is this. I am looking to get a sonic screwdriver, and I have a few in mind, but I want to know what you all think is the sonic screwdriver that I should get, because I know there are quite a few out there, but let me know which Doctor's screwdriver you think I should get. And it doesn't matter if it's one of the future ones, whether it's the 11th Doctor's screwdriver. I don't know if 12 has one of his own or not. But let me know which sonic screwdriver you would like to see me have. And it's actually going to be part of future plans moving forward with the show. I'm going to start making some changes, adding a few things here or there. Nothing major, nothing that should hopefully distract from the episodes, but it's something I've wanted to do for a while. And like I said, I just want to get your all's input, see what you would like to see as far as the sonic screwdriver that will potentially become part of the show. Alright. And as always, everyone, thank you very much for joining me on this new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Please, as always, leave your comments down below. I love hearing from you all. For those of you, if you have some disagreements with other commenters, overall, things have been very pleasant. The conversations have been really good, even on the ones where people disagree, but there was one recently that kind of towed the line. And it was from one of the more recent subscribers, and I don't, I'm not trying to single anyone out or anything, but, it's just, please everyone, keep everything civil, and you all have done an amazing job of doing that so far, and I thank you all for that. Thank you for being an amazing community. I really appreciate you all. And, well, time to move on. I will see you all next time for Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. Until then, I'm Papa Ken, and Alonzi!